Some recent detail, actually, Laurie, in your piece. The headline is about Harry Kane moving maybe to Manchester United, which we'll definitely talk about in just a moment. But in that piece, detail about what United are actually looking for in this summer transfer window. And intriguingly, right wing, again, is one of those positions because, like Andy just said, I think a lot of us thought that Sancho was a solution to the right wing.
Yeah, it's interesting what Andy says there in terms of that was the intention from United. I don't know, I sort of still felt that right wing was somewhere that they needed to strengthen, and that's what Jadon Sancho was that was the idea behind him. And I suppose we've seen Marcus Rashford on that side occasionally. But yeah, no, speaking to people, the list was, centre forward, 2 midfielders, 1 defensive, 1 offensive. So you're kind of thinking the Nemanja Matic replacement and the Paul Pogba replacement perhaps. And then, right wing as well. So, you think back to that summer when Jadon Sancho didn't come, and there was Amad Diallo, there was Facundo Pellistri, who, might still come good, but I certainly think Amad, you look at what his performances have been like for Rangers or getting in the team at Rangers, he's finding it tough. So I think he's, quite a way off playing for Manchester United. So if United feel like they need to get somebody in there on the right wing, and clearly, Mason Greenwood's unavailability is a factor in that as well. That was a position that he often played in. We'll wait and see what happens there. But, clearly United are looking at it thinking we need to strengthen that position of the pitch. And I guess, they see Jadon Sancho on the left, which is where he's done his good work, because he likes cutting in, doesn't he, and slipping those little passes in between the lines. It plays to his strengths, you'd say. But it does seem a little bit, you've got to get your head around it, because last summer it felt like he was that right winger that was the missing piece in the jigsaw.
Yeah, he was the first right winger signed by Manchester United, the first specialist in that position for the first team since Antonio Valencia, which was like 15 years previous or something, and then it turns out he wasn't. So it's now 16 years or whatever the number was. Let's do Bruno, Andy, before we do the striker. I'm just going to tease it one last time before we actually talk about that exciting piece of transfer news, which will have the junkies buzzing, I'm sure. Bruno Fernandes is getting a new contract, it seems, for United. Is that the right decision?
I think it is. I think on his day he's one of the best players in the Premier League. He's another who's not had a good season. He's been too whingy. And you might whinge when you're playing in a side which is failing, a side when you probably felt you're going to challenge for the title. It's his first season in Manchester where life has been relatively normal, because he moved, if you remember, just at the outset of the lockdown, and that was very difficult for his family. But he's 27 years old. He should be in his absolute prime. And I think that he could be one of the players to affect real change around Manchester United. He made such a huge impact when he arrived in the January. Within first few minutes of that first game against Wolves, he made a difference. So we want Bruno back to his best. At one point, I thought that his combinations with Paul Pogba, I thought that's the future of Manchester United there. There was an away game at Brighton where they were outstanding together. But I feel like less and less now. But I think Bruno is popular. I think he likes being at United. I think there's times when he's definitely had some points of frustration, which is natural. You'd be worried if a player wasn't frustrated, given how poorly United have been this season.
Let's do it. Laurie, are Manchester United going to sign Harry Kane?
Yeah, you were right, weren't you, in terms of the junkies and how I suppose things get...
Inject it into my veins.
Brought out by the aggregators. You're having it, are you? You
no.
Have a dose of that? No.
We've got the rest of the season to play for, yeah? I need to get in the top 4 and win a football match. I still don't get how people get more excited about signing players and winning football matches. Anyway, I digress.
The whole thing is mental. The whole industry around it is absolutely crazy.
Let Laurie do his hit first. Come on.
Well, honestly, you should see my mates. If you're thinking that about your Twitter, I've got mates that will be texting me, who are we signing? What's happening? Literally the day after the transfer window's closed. So, this affliction spreads far and wide. But listen, and maybe I'm guilty of it in terms of doing this piece now, but it was just something that came to me through sources in terms of. And perhaps one of the key factors is, what I've been told is that George Mendes is looking at potential replacements for Harry Kane should he leave Tottenham Hotspur. So, listen, you might think, well, that's an agent, he's a super agent, he's got lots of different fingers in lots of different pies. He's got a good relationship with Tottenham, with Daniel Levy, with the sporting director at Spurs. So why wouldn't he be doing that? But equally, it sort of just brings to the fore again this idea that Harry Kane clearly wanted to leave Tottenham last summer. Tottenham, Daniel Levy didn't entertain any offers from Manchester City. It looks like they're going to get Erling Haaland, or at least they're certainly in talks over getting him. So that leaves Harry Kane with perhaps a decision to make, and Manchester United have had him on their list of strikers they'd love to buy at some point if they could make the money work. So let's see. I am sceptical just because United, in terms of spending money, you'd think perhaps other areas would need it first. But then again, as I mentioned, you look at the strike force, and when you think back to last summer, you thought, right, well, that's the area that's actually sorted. Cavani, Ronaldo, Greenwood, Martial, Rashford. As it's happened, you're perhaps looking at it going, Ronaldo's the one who is scoring the goals at the moment, and it is a deficit there. One of the stats that I sort of brought up in my piece on the fact that 2019-20, I just remember it at the time, because I asked Solskjaer about it, and he was loving it. This idea that United's front three were outscoring Liverpool's, they were younger than Liverpool's, and you sort of felt, okay, they're onto something here. Rashford, Greenwood and Martial scored 62 goals between them in all different competitions in 2019-20, outscored Liverpool's front three, who got 57, and this season it's 12, for various different reasons. Clearly Martial's on loan at Sevilla, Rashford's in a form dip, and Greenwood's not available. So, there's obviously reasons, but it just, 62 to 12 goals, 50 goals, losing out on where you thought that was going to be a kind of attacking unit to get behind. So that's why United have got a centre forward on their list of targets, and Kane, would inevitably be one of them, because he's proven time and time again. He's one of the elite strikers in world football. He's one of the Premier League's best ever. I think if United could somehow do it, I know he's at 28, turning 29, and people will look at it and go, he's the wrong age profile for Manchester United, but he is, elite striker. So I think United should be looking at it, to be honest.
If you would have asked me for most of my adult life, should that happen, I would have said something along the lines of, if he wants to win trophies, then you leave Tottenham, don't you? And you come to a club like Manchester United. But you can't even say that anymore, because Manchester United don't win anything. Whatever happens, what you've just said will be reported by aggregator accounts as Harry Kane to join Manchester United on the first day of the transfer window, bracket Laurie Whitwell, the Athletic. And when that doesn't happen within 45, 46 seconds of the transfer window opening, you'll be called a fraud.
Well, I am a fraud, but for different reasons.
Right. Another issue that's been brought up in the questions from fans at home has been in line with your piece, really, about Harry Kane, Laurie, to be fair. Neil has said on the back of the recent piece regarding Kane, are United also targeting Declan Rice? It seems unlikely that United could do both deals in one summer. A lot of people messaging along these same sort of lines. David O thought that the Kane story was an early April Fool, so I'm guessing he's not a transfer junkie. Do you think there's logic to that, Laurie, that both of those couldn't be done in one summer, or given the players that could be leaving Manchester United, is there going to be enough budget about?
No, I think it's a very fair question. Look at United's spend over the past few seasons. Last summer was actually quite a big spend, net terms by United standards. I guess, what was it, like 130, 140, and that was done because they could pay in instalments. Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid getting the chunk of money for Sancho and Varane over a number of years. So it depends whether, I suppose, the clubs that Manchester United try and do deals with were open to that. But yeah, no, I couldn't see really United getting, say Kane 100 odd million, Rice they're talking about 150 million, which I just think is not realistic, really. I think he's a fantastic player, but and I think he would actually slot into United's team and squad and midfield. He's got a good personality about him as much as anything. But I don't think for that kind of money United would entertain it. So I think they're sort of valid questions that readers have.
I think United will have a budget, and I think United will have to raise some money from outgoing sales, either by transfer fees or getting players off the wage bill. But I do not sense at all that we'll be seeing ridiculously priced players coming in, which leaves me to caution against Declan Rice, someone the club definitely like, but someone who West Ham do not need to sell.